Hi there, folks. This is WP-Tonic, episode 96. And in this episode, folks, we're going to talk about hosting. What are the best hosting options for your WordPress website in 2016? How does that sound, John?
Sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome. So, John, I think no howdy this week, John. You've gone back to awesome, have you?
Gone back to, no howdy, just back to awesome.
He's trying to confuse me, folks. It's very easy, actually. But there we go. So I think to help our listeners, John, we'll just go through, we've divided the main four options when it comes to hosting, and we'll start with normal shared hosting. Maybe you can give a quick explanation to the listeners what is shared hosting.
Sure thing. So shared hosting is the most common place where people start, like when they're first building a site. It's generally less than $10 a month, and they usually, you can put in, says you can cram in there. But the problem with shared hosting is it's so cheap because they're jamming as many sites as possible into one server. So you're sharing bandwidth and resources with all those other websites.
Yeah, that's the main thing, folks. They've got a hell of a lot of websites on these servers. And if something goes wrong with one of these other sites, because you're all sharing different resources on that server, it can really affect your website in performance and security. That was great, John. Now, over the past 2 years, we've had a new kind of hosting come to light. It's called managed WordPress hosting. How would you explain that to somebody, the difference between normal shared and this new thing that's come out? It's got really popular, hasn't it, John? Managed WordPress hosting.
Sure. So managed WordPress hosting, how that differs is generally set up by companies who are active in the WordPress space, and they configure the servers to run, the WordPress PHP functions, better than a just generic hosting environment. They may limit the types of plugins that you can install because they're a strain on the database of WordPress. They usually update your core version of WordPress like automatically, and they may or may not offer like other extras such as updating your plugins, having staging environments to where you can one-click between staging and production. And sometimes they offer email, but most generally times they don't. You need to get that separate. So.
Yeah, that's well pointed out. I forgot to that myself. They just offer a lot more optimization. When you go to those, not all of them, but some of them, they give a guarantee that they don't put so many websites on the server. So they don't actually totally make it clear, some of the providers. Is it shared hosting or is it the other that we're going to discuss in a second?
Yeah.
They're not totally clear, but some are, but then they give guarantee on it. What they used words like it won't have so many websites as our normal hosting, blah blah blah. So let's go on to VPS, virtual private servers. What are those, John?
So basically, a virtual private server is they kind of section off some bandwidth and some resources that are dedicated just to your little cluster on the server, to where that way you're not sharing those resources with every other site that's on the server. You have like a partition that's basically set aside just for you for resources and bandwidth.
Yeah, it's a bit like this. You got a house, and each house has got separate. And you kind of rented a room in the house, and it's got its own bathroom. You're not sharing the bathroom; it's got its own bathroom, maybe something like that. So it's just a more kind of private area. You can have multiple of these VPSs on the server, but they're all their own little worlds. Would that be maybe a good way of explaining it?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah, and it's usually much faster than shared hosting. So
where I think it's kind of a little bit confusing is the performance between the managed WordPress hosting and a kind of traditional VPS. That's where the kind of performance difference is kind of a little bit grey, I would say. Would you agree with that?
I would say that with managed WordPress hosts, you're going to get excellent performance as well. I would say if you are running like a WordPress site, I would lean just a little bit more toward doing the managed WordPress hosting, because the VPS hosting in generally is more like a generic server configuration. That's just like more of an all-purpose, server. But I mean, it's definitely a step up from shared.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got a dedicated physical server. That's the kind of Rolls Royce, or should be. Can you explain what that is, John?
Sure. So dedicated server, when you're on one of those, it means that you're stepping up to the big time. You're in the big leagues. You're taking the whole server. Instead of like dividing the whole building into like little apartments, you're taking the whole building. You're taking the whole server, and generally speaking, this is just for sites that are experiencing a ton of traffic each day. If you're a really busy site, you might have more than one. You might have redundant servers. So,
yeah, and the main difference here, folks, one of the main difference if you need that, and like I say, it's in the hundreds of dollars, is that you have managed or non-managed dedicated servers, don't you, John?
Yeah, most definitely. In enterprises, like dedicated servers, that's like it's definitely like its own category.
And the main difference is you're basically buying for support. You're getting a Unix administrator that looks after, make sure everything's updated. But if you're buying it with non-managed, you're on your own. All that the people that you're renting from make sure is that if there's a physical failure or power outage, they will deal with it. But all the software management is up to you. The security, the patching, keeping the hackers out, that's all down to you. Would you agree with that, John?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, for the most part, hosts are pretty good about doing software upgrades and stuff like that. I think the more that you pay each month, the more you should expect in support as far as personalized service. So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right then, folks, we're going for our first break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Want to turn your WordPress website into an online speed machine? Go on over to WP-Tonic. They'll set up DigitalOcean websites hosting on solid-state drives. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for WP-Tonic's maintenance packages. WP-Tonic offers some of the very best WordPress maintenance packages on the market. So those who are serious about getting the very best platform for their WordPress sites, make sure you go on over to WP-Tonic.com.
We're coming back. We're going to discuss more about hosting and what are the best options if you're looking to get your WordPress really moving. And to start the second section, John, I think it's very linked to our previous week's discussion about themes, because what's really important in usability and in SEO, search engine optimization, is speed. And we discussed themes last week, and having a really what I call the Swiss Army knife theme can really slow down your site, and having really cheap hosting is problematic. Would you agree with that, John?
Yeah, those are two of the biggest areas that affect site performance, is hosting and how performant your theme is. But those are two quick areas to win in if you're looking to increase speed. So
we're going on to some of the hosting providers that we recommend, folks. But we're going to start off. With something that probably a lot of people who are not in the WordPress development or the WordPress community isn't aware of. There's a very large company called EIG, Endurance International Group, and they own quite a lot of the hosting companies in the US and even abroad. Two of the most well-known of the companies that they own is Bluehost and HostGator, and there's nothing wrong with them, but I think both me and John agree that we feel there's better value and performance hosting companies out there than what EIG can offer. Would you agree with that, John?
Oh, most definitely. They do own, and especially like a lot of hosts that are more on the medium to lower end tier, but they have a lot of hosting companies that are in their catalog. But definitely, there's definitely better value to be found.
I think that's the way we would leave it, folks, and we're going to discuss some of them in this part of the show and the ending part, because we've got not an enormous long list, but we've got a few. Let's start with SiteGround. I call them my Bulgarian friends. Comes from a British spy movie, John, called the Igris File. So it probably means nothing to you, John. They're based in Bulgaria, but they've also got office in the US, and they've got some good plans, and they have a Pacific plan called GoGeek, which for the first year is at $14.95. You have to pay for the year to get that price, so they want 12 payments of $14.95, and after the first year it goes up to $29.99. But you've had some experience with their specialized WordPress hosting. What do you feel, John?
Well, I definitely have some sites that are hosted there, and I think for a lot of people who are starting out and maybe don't have a ton of traffic, they're definitely a really good choice for a host. One, because they are, they're very WordPress centric. They're active in the community. They, have their servers configured, optimally for WordPress. They run a traditional cPanel, so you can run email through them, but they're a good value.
Yeah, good ticketing system, folks. It's a good threaded ticketed system. What I didn't clarify, because I haven't used them for a while, but I did heavily use them. I got on with them okay. Good ticketing system. They didn't offer telephone support when I was using them. I think they've added that, and it might be extra, but I think they've added some telephone support, but I'm not totally clear. In the notes, I will clarify that, folks. Yeah, I think of, some people, I would go for the GoGeek for $14.95, but there's a bit of a jump after the first year. But I found that you get a good performance for your average WordPress site. I wouldn't go with their just bog standard. It's okay, it's much cheaper. I think there's performance consequences, and even for your bog standard site, I think you're going to see that. Another one that I've used a little bit and still do a little bit is InMotion Hosting, based in Los Angeles. Sponsor a lot of WordCamps, so does SiteGround. They really do some really good deals around the VPS, virtual private server, but this isn't their cheapest shared hosting. It's not optimized for WordPress, but it starts at $9.99. It's their middle product in the shared hosting, and I don't think it's going to be as good as GoGeek, but it's going to be, in my opinion, a lot better than Bluehost or HostGator. You haven't really dealt with them, have you, John? I think that's correct.
No, I haven't. I haven't ever hosted any sites on InMotion. I haven't had any clients on InMotion. So, yeah.
I'll finish off, folks. Some people that I have discussed this with haven't had great experience. They've been okay with me so far. I've got a couple of clients that I manage and their websites, and they've been okay. Their ticketing system isn't as good. It's not threaded, but they do come back pretty quick with questions. And if you have to go further up the food chain to get your question answered, there are experienced people there. It's just that they don't have such a a slick ticketing system, the SiteGround, and they do have chat, which SiteGround's got, and they do offer telephone support, and they pick up the phone pretty quick, unlike some people we could talk about where you're on wait for over half hour, aren't you, John?
Yep. Hey, really quick, what's your experience with DreamHost?
Really lovely people, actually. Really, very. Unfortunately, I tried to set it up for a client because they have got a really good reputation. That's what I meant. And this is 6 months ago, so it might have changed, John. They've got their own interface. It's not a C panel, and I just found it horrendous. I just found this customized interface, which when you look at what they're offering, it's very, very competitive, and they've got a good reputation. It's just, and they do answer their email, and they seem helpful. But it's just the interface, John. I just found it a dog's breath of interface.
Yeah, it takes a little getting used to. I ran into a case recently where I had to help somebody with that. I wanted to give a shout out to Vince in the support team from DreamHost. So, yeah.
So, what do you think I'm being unfair, or was that your observation as well?
No, I don't think that's unfair. I just wanted a second opinion.
Yeah, really, I found them very, very supportive, good support, but I just couldn't handle their interface. Yeah, that's right. We're going to go on to our next break, folks, and we'll be back to finish off a bit. We've still got a fair bit to discuss, and we'll be back in a minute, folks. We're coming back from our break, folks. We better get a move on with this, but I think it's going to be a slightly longer show, John. Let's go to Flywheel.
Okay.
Never used them. They start off with a called Tiny for $15 a month. Next level up is Standard, which is $30 a month. I've never used them. You do, if you need a secure socket certificate, they charge $10 a month for that. I don't know if they supply at that level wildcard certificate or is just a standard. Got good reputation, but I've never used them. Got any experience with them at all, John?
Yeah, I have a pretty extensive experience with them. I have quite a few people hosted on Flywheel right now, and my own site is on there right now. So for the SSL, they're very similar. So Flywheel in general, they're very similar to WP Engine as far as that. I think they're kind of following like right behind like what they're doing. They have a lot of similar things like staging sites. They offer like concierge migrations. With the SSL, I'm not really sure if it's a wildcard. I know you bring your own SSL, and for each site that runs a SSL, it's $10 a month.
Yeah.
You can add on like a CDN. They integrate with Max CDN, and that's like $10 a month as well. So
yeah, let's go on to WP Engine. They kind of started really this managed WordPress hosting. That's become really popular. Starts at $29. With the $29, they used to not instate. What I need to clarify is if you wanted a wildcard secure socket certificate, you had to go up to the next level, which was $99. They on the 29, you can't bring your own certificate. You got to buy the certificate from them. That's around $49. If you want a wild card, it's $199. And also they've got not a lot, that's unfair, but they won't allow you to run certain plugins. And I think probably that's the same case with Flywheel, isn't it, John?
There's like certain plugins. I mean, okay, so for a lot of the managed hosting, that they do kind of server-side caching. Like Flywheel and WP Engine, they'll tell you like, hey, don't install any caching plugins because we already do that on the server side, and a lot of the managed WordPress hosts do that. Now, there are certain ones that WP Engine is more stringent about, and they'll keep those out. Where like on other managed hosts, they'll let you install them. Pretty much the caching ones are out like universally. Certain ones, like a broken link checker and stuff like that, they won't allow on WP Engine.
Yeah. Also, developers love them because they've got a really slick duplicate staging site system that's really slick, and they've got some other whistles and bells that are really, really nice. Like I say, the 29, it's pretty good value. Basic, fundamentally, like with SiteGround, the 14.95 or whatever. But when it jumps to 29, probably WP Engine offers better value than SiteGround with their bells and whistles. But then you got all the hassle having to move it. But it's not for everybody. And then we got Pagely. They've gone up market really. They start at $99, so they're gone up the feeding level really, haven't they, John?
Yeah, Pagely is more targeted directly at enterprise level clients, and they're more about like dedicated servers. Their big thing is they are a managed WordPress host that integrates Amazon Web Services, for cloud, integration to make things faster, basically. But they target the big guys.
And lastly, it's part of what WP-Tonic offers. So, but I host WP-Tonic on this, and I truly believe in the product. And that's DigitalOcean. Now, DigitalOcean is a really different way, a different mindset when it comes to hosting. They provide email support, and they've got a great forum, but they don't really offer a ticketed support system or anything. And it's cloud-based hosting. It's VPS in what they call droplets, and you can have multiple sites running in a droplet. And it starts at $5 a month, folks. But I wouldn't recommend the $5 plan to somebody hosting a normal website. We normally recommend the $10 to $20 level. You set up your account, and then what WP-Tonic does is part of our plans is that we will make sure that the security is all up to date, and if there's a real emergency, we provide a Linux administrator. But we're a maintenance company. But what I love about is as long as you have regular backups and you make sure the security is dealt with, is actually, I feel, a more secure system than a lot of hosting companies. But it's a different system, and you need a different mindset, and it's not right for everybody. It's really, but I think for $10, $20, if you've got a membership site or you've got an e-commerce site, and you've got a lot of plugins and you need something that's got a bit of oomph in it, I think it's great value. So that's what my views around DigitalOcean, John. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
I think I've been fair there, haven't I?
Yeah, you've been fair.
Right, yeah. So how can people get hold of you, John?
Sure thing. They can find me on my site. It's lockdowndesign.com, silent E after the lock. And you can email me, john@lockdowndesign.com, or follow me on Twitter, lockdown_.
Yeah, and folks, if you want to get hold of me, it's really easy. You can get me on Twitter @Jonathan Denwood, or you can email me, Jonathan @wp-tonic.com. I'm pretty easy. I'm really active on the web, and I'm easy to track down. And I just want to point out, folks, every Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do a blab show. We have a great panel. of almost 9-10 WordPress experts, and if they're free that Saturday, they come and join us. We're going to be talking about membership plugins this Saturday. If you want to subscribe to that show or find out more, all you have to do is go to WP-Tonic /blab, and it's on the top navigation, and you can subscribe to the show, and it should be great fun. What do you reckon, John?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this Saturday. Membership plugins is a really growing thing within the WordPress ecosystem, and there's a lot of discussion to be had around it.
Well, that's the end of this show. Peace to you folks. What do you say, John?
I say peace out.
Peace out. And do subscribe on iTunes, folks, because it really does help the show get more popular, and it builds the show branding. So if you could do that for us, that'd be great. See you later, folks. Bye.